Your power, chosen one, isn't found in the volume of your voice or the force of your arguments. It resides in the silence that follows when your truth has already spoken, a profound, untouchable quiet that chokes the very breath out of every insecure soul around you. The moment someone truly chosen steps into their authentic self, they become an existential threat to all those who have built their lives on fragile, fake foundations. They don't just tremble, they feel a deep primal fear, as if your presence alone is the loud, inevitable announcement of their own irrelevance. The universe has a magnificent way of confirming their dread, signaling clearly that they are standing before a force that is not merely built different, but is utterly untouchable. Your mere existence, chosen one, is an acidic corrosive that turns the false confidence of your enemies into fine, pathetic dust. They may put on a grand, aggressive performance, but if you look closely, their crippling fear leaks through every single action, every spiteful comment, and every jealous plot they weave. Think of the classic image, a creeping shadow attempting to consume the sun. It stretches and pushes, spreading its dark influence across the ground, and for a fleeting moment it might even feel triumphant. But the very instant the sun decides to fully engage its power and shine with unmitigated intensity, that shadow vanishes instantly, as if it were a never-ending illusion. That is precisely what your enemies are. Bold, noisy shadows that only exist when your light is contained. They don't disappear because you spend your valuable energy fighting them. They dissolve because they were never true competition to begin with. Their perceived size and threat were only illusions, magnified in the moments when your immense, inherent power was still dormant, or when you chose to consciously keep it subdued. And here is a universal, undeniable fact that should hit you with the cold, refreshing clarity of a mountain stream. People only invest time and energy in trying to silence what genuinely threatens their standing. They never bother to discuss the weak. They don't obsessively stalk the average, and they certainly don't fixate on those who pose no challenge. The only thing they focus all their energy on is the one force they fear losing complete control over. Therefore, if you find them watching your every move, gossiping fiercely about your progress, clumsily trying to imitate your style, or desperately attempting to drag your name through the mud, congratulations. You have already won the battle. The universe does not permit ordinary individuals to generate this kind of disruptive wave. The system is only truly disturbed by forces, and you are clearly one of them. Before we delve deeper into the magnitude of your inherent power, chosen one, take a moment to absorb this message. Engaging with this content, liking, sharing, and subscribing, doesn't just boost an algorithm, it strengthens a universal force we are actively building. Every click and every subscription pushes this powerful message to more souls who desperately need to hear it and understand their own worth. Thank you for being an active participant in this mission. You're not simply a passive listener, but a vital contributor to the rise of a silent, unstoppable movement. You are part of an alignment that absolutely refuses to dim its own light for anyone's comfort. Now, let's get straight back to the core topic, because this is not about feeding an ego, promoting empty hype, or selling a fantasy. This is about confronting the raw, brutal reality of why your enemies inevitably crumble the instant you choose to fully step into your power. The central theme is clear. Chosen ones, get ready to permanently silence every single enemy in your path. And remember that silence is not achieved through shouting, engaging in petty fights, or desperately trying to prove your worth to fools. It emerges naturally from a deep, unshakable understanding of who you are, why you were chosen, and the untouchable, uncopyable, and indestructible essence the universe placed within you. The truth is starkly simple. Chosen ones make people intensely uncomfortable, not because of what you actively do, but because of what you fundamentally represent. You walk into any room, and immediately and without a word, you become the living, unspoken mirror that reflects and exposes every single one of their hidden weaknesses. You hold up a reflection of their deep-seated jealousy, their facade of confidence, and the exhausting lies they must constantly tell themselves just to get through their day-to-day existence. You trigger the most painful insecurities they have spent their entire lives trying to bury and forget. And instead of summoning the courage to face their own internal darkness and flaws, they resort to the cowardly act of trying to dim your brilliant, natural light. They operate under the misguided belief that tearing you down will somehow save them from the uncomfortable, painful truth about themselves. They attack with cheap shots because they lack the influence to genuinely affect you. They resort to mean-spirited whispers because they lack the authority to intimidate you. They plot their clumsy schemes because they lack the foresight to predict your next level. And ultimately, they break completely because they are powerless to stop your relentless, destined movement. Believe it or not, they often see the clear, unmistakable signs the universe has placed around you even before you fully grasp or recognize them yourself. They notice the strange, consistent way opportunities seem to bend and align in your direction. They see the natural, effortless way people are drawn to your authentic energy. They witness how every challenge you encounter, every hardship they hoped would destroy you, somehow transforms you into something stronger rather than breaking you down. They see the exact strength they desperately wish they had, the resilience they only pretend to possess, and the limitless potential they know, deep down, they will never be able to reach. This is the core reason they try so hard, and so foolishly, to silence your voice. But this is the critical lesson they constantly forget. Chosen ones are not silenced by pressure, they are instead sharpened by it. Still, we must be absolutely honest with ourselves, chosen one. There have been moments, dark nights when you stared endlessly at the ceiling, wondering why the weight of life felt so unbearably heavy. There were days when their cruel words and criticisms managed to creep into the corners of your mind. Moments when you seriously questioned your entire purpose and worth. But here is the profound truth you momentarily forgot. The chosen ones are always tested the hardest, because they are the only ones who carry the most potent and transformative energy. The universe does not hand this kind of uncontainable, raw fire to a soul who is incapable of handling its heat. The relentless pressure you felt was never intended as a punishment. It was always meticulously planned as preparation. And while your enemies were frantically busy trying to break your spirit and stop your movement, the universe was patiently and silently busy building you into an unstoppable force. You were mastering the essential virtue of patience while they were wasting their precious time and energy. You were growing in silence and power while they were loudly trying to tear you down. You were evolving into your next, greater self while they were throwing childish, ineffective attacks. You were becoming the one person they would soon be utterly powerless against, whether their fragile egos could accept it or not. The most ironic and effective part of this entire dynamic is that your silence hurts them far more deeply than any verbal comeback or heated argument ever could. This is because silence from a chosen one is never a sign of weakness. It is always deliberate, strategic, and a powerful, non-negotiable message. It communicates a single, devastating truth. I am not lowering myself to engage in a battle with you. You fundamentally do not qualify to be on my level. And nothing annihilates a jealous, loud enemy faster than the sickening realization that they don't even meet the low standard required to be your opponent. You are not here in this life to battle every little critic, nor are you here to argue endlessly with every soul consumed by jealousy. You are certainly not here to reply to every single hater, or waste your time explaining yourself to people who are fully committed to intentionally misunderstanding you. Your sole purpose is to rise. And when you rise, they fall automatically, a gravitational inevitability. They fall under the crushing, unbearable weight of their own crippling insecurity. They collapse under the intense pressure of having to watch you become everything they spitefully insisted you never could be. They fall because they foolishly spent every ounce of their energy trying to stop someone who was always destined to be unstoppable. Chosen one, your very presence is the unpredictable storm they cannot anticipate, and the unbreakable calm they cannot disturb. You are the kind of force that compels people to fundamentally rethink their entire existence and the smallness of their own lives. Deep down, a part of you already knows this absolute truth. You simply forgot it for a fleeting moment, but you are remembering it right now. You are remembering that your enemies are temporary noise, but your inherent power is permanent. Your strategic silence is lethal, and your inevitable rise is a universal certainty. The moment you fully and finally step into the greatness of what you are, every single enemy who barked at you will vanish like dust caught in the direct sunlight. They won't fade because you defeated them. They will defeat themselves by trying to fight a destiny the universe has already chosen. Since you are still locked in and reading this, it confirms you are not just idly curious. You are fully committed. You feel the magnetic pull. You sense the profound shift occurring within you. You know that this message is not random. It was divinely aligned specifically for you. Before we take the next step, power up this mission, hit the like button, subscribe to this force, and type 777 into the comments to signal to the universe that you are ready to permanently silence every enemy without lifting a single finger in a fight. Now, breathe and lock your focus. What is coming next is not just another piece of information. It is the fundamental wisdom that has the power to flip the entire script of your life. If you are truly chosen, you will feel the undeniable pull to stay engaged until the very last word. The universe orchestrated this moment for a profound reason. Enemies don't truly crumble when you speak a loud, angry comeback. They are utterly crushed when you strategically stop treating them as your equals. That specific, calculated punch is the one they never, ever recover from, because nothing hits a jealous hater with more devastating impact than the realization that the chosen one doesn't even bother to acknowledge their miserable existence. It is this deliberate silence that completely destroys their ego. Your refusal to argue, your stoic refusal to react, or your decision not to defend yourself against their lies becomes a blinding mirror they cannot tolerate. It shows them exactly who they truly are, small, loud, and utterly powerless. Nothing terrifies a fool more than being exposed for their emptiness without you having to utter a single, defining word. They threw every cheap shot and every nasty rumor at you because they desperately needed you to fight back. They needed your emotional reaction like a drowning man needs oxygen. They wanted you tangled up in their noise, wasting your vital time, draining your sacred energy, and lowering yourself into the mud with them. That is the only way fools ever win, not through strength or intelligence, but by successfully dragging giants down to their miserable level. But you refused to go down there. You stayed firmly seated on your throne, and that silent, sovereign choice has smashed their fragile ego with more force than any argument you could ever concoct. Think about this deeply for a moment. When was the last time the majestic ocean felt compelled to argue with a tiny raindrop that fell into it? When was the last time a raging wildfire paused to seek permission from a small spark? When has the universe ever stopped its endless, profound movement to explain the reason for its existence? Power does not explain. Power does not debate. Power simply exists, and its very existence alone is sufficient to instantly reset the entire environment and establish a new order. That force is you. Your presence alone inflicts more damage on their standing than their most spiteful words could ever inflict upon yours, and don't even pretend you haven't felt it. The very moment you step into a room, the entire atmosphere perceptibly shifts. People grow quieter, eyes lock onto you involuntarily, often without conscious intent. They sense a mysterious quality they cannot articulate, a kind of magnetic force that has no need for external validation or approval. And what is the immediate, predictable reaction of a fool when they are confronted with something exponentially bigger than their petty ego can comprehend? They lash out, they whisper viciously, they fabricate elaborate stories, and they relentlessly poke and prod, desperately hoping you will finally break character and slip. They want you to react. They want you to prove you are just as small and flawed as they are. But you have not given them that satisfaction. You have stayed composed. You have stayed structurally solid. You have stayed exactly what they fear the most, untouchable. Here is a harsh truth you must internalize completely. Their hatred was never truly about your specific actions or mistakes. It was always, fundamentally, about your identity and the sheer magnitude of your energy. They sensed something powerful and ancient within your spirit, something sharp, something they were simply not built to handle or control. Your quiet, solid confidence was a direct threat to their inherent fragility. Your strategic silence was a lethal threat to the web of lies they maintain. Your rising power was a mortal threat to their illusion of control over their own lives. That is precisely why they acted out so aggressively. That is why they screamed their criticisms. That is why they threw every insecurity and flaw they had at you, like cheap, tiny stones hurled hopelessly at a massive mountain. And in those moments of attack, you likely wondered, why me? Why do I constantly get targeted? Why do people who barely know me react with such intensity, as if I have personally offended them? The answer is stunningly simple. Chosen ones do not have to do anything for an insecure soul to feel completely exposed. Your very existence automatically pulls the mask off every fake and pretender in your vicinity. People possess an innate ability to sense destiny and greatness, even before you fully comprehend it yourself. They can feel when a soul carries a certain weight and purpose that the mundane world cannot measure or define. That is why they scrutinize you. That is why they clumsily try to imitate your movements. That is why they are consumed by envy. But this is the crucial moment where fools always, without exception, lose the entire game. They mistake your composure and silence for genuine weakness. They falsely assume you are quiet because you are scared, unsure, or vulnerable. They confuse your calm, centered energy for passivity. They see your deliberate restraint as hesitation. Meanwhile, the universe is relentlessly forging a version of you that will silence them permanently and without effort. They cannot grasp that chosen ones simply do not engage in meaningless, petty battles. You conserve your rare, potent power. You only move when the action truly matters and serves your highest purpose. And fools hate this kind of discipline and clarity because they themselves possess absolutely none of it. Let them continue to talk loudly. Let them continue to project their flaws onto you. Let them perform their small, loud acts of drama. You have no need to lower your voice or engage. You just need to steadily raise your standards, and those elevated standards are already choking them into silence. Remember this truth above all else. Fools scream and make noise because they truly don't matter in the grand scheme. Kings, however, remain silent because they have no need whatsoever to convince anyone of their authority. Your established throne speaks louder and more powerfully than your mouth ever could. Your presence alone is a formidable declaration. Your aura acts as the courtroom, your energy is the final, non-negotiable verdict, and the sentence for every one of your enemies is the same, irrelevance. Look closely at their desperate behavior, it reveals their entire hand. If you were truly insignificant, they wouldn't observe you with such minute detail. They wouldn't try to imitate your unique style. They wouldn't track your every move with such obsessive focus. They certainly wouldn't hate you with this much intense, consuming energy. People do not obsess over nobodies. They obsess over threats. The louder and more dramatically they act, the more profoundly they are afraid of you. Their expressed hate is, in fact, the greatest, most honest compliment you will ever receive. And chosen one, ask yourself this. Why do they consistently make the first move? Why do they try so desperately hard to elicit a strong reaction from you? Why are they always stressed and agitated over someone who is clearly not stressed or agitated about them? The painful answer is that fools require chaos and drama to feel momentarily alive. They need conflict to distract themselves from their own glaring failures. They need you to stay relevant and visible. Without you, they have absolutely nothing to talk about, nothing to attack, and nothing to feed their hollow, empty identity. You have become their oxygen, and when you withdraw it, they inevitably suffocate. That is why your strategic silence is so utterly lethal. You silence them by making the conscious choice to refuse to participate in their nonsense. You silence them by consistently choosing to level up while they remain willfully stuck in the same petty cycle. You silence them by choosing profound peace while they cling desperately to their childish pettiness. You silence them by winning quietly, consistently, and without any apology or fear. You silence them by becoming the one person they feverishly prayed you would never, ever become. They wanted you to be easily manipulated and emotional. You became entirely strategic. They wanted you to be broken and vulnerable. You became supremely disciplined. They wanted you to be riddled with insecurity. You became completely unstoppable. And that remarkable, irreversible transformation is the very thing that is now burning them alive from the inside. Every time you rise to a new level, they are forced to witness the undeniable proof that all of their attacks have failed miserably. Every time you heal from their wounds, they realize they never possessed any real, lasting power over you. Every time you upgrade your life, their illusions of control collapse into dust. Your visible success becomes the permanent, inescapable revenge that they have to watch unfold in real time. This is why fools spontaneously break when kings and queens rise. There is simply no adequate comeback or recovery from that kind of definitive victory. Understand this truth deeply. You don't silence your enemies by actively fighting them. You silence your enemies by becoming a force they will never, ever be able to reach in their lifetime. You silence fools by elevating yourself so high that they can only look upward at your light and choke on their own consuming envy. You silence them by living a reality of excellence they are simply not built to survive, let alone share. And the universe, you must know, is not a neutral party in your journey. It actively aligns with you. It moves mountains for you. It clears paths for you that others are absolutely forbidden to walk. That is why fools fall apart when they see your consistent growth and success. They cannot and will not understand why everything eventually works out in your favor, even after the fiercest challenges. They mistakenly believe you possess some secret, unfair advantage, and they are absolutely right. You do. It is called being chosen. But being chosen is not about feeding an ego or feeling entitled. It is about accepting a profound responsibility. It is about knowing that your rare magnetic energy is far too precious to be carelessly wasted on people who will never have the depth to understand it. It is about moving always with clear intention instead of reacting out of momentary emotion. It is about recognizing that your destiny does not, and never will, require the approval of a petty audience. Fools make an endless racket of noise. Kings and queens make strategic, impactful moves. And you, chosen one, were never meant to argue with those who reside beneath your spiritual and intellectual level. You were meant to rise so far above them that their small voices fade entirely into static. You were meant to let your magnificent, unapologetic existence be the final, crushing blow. You were meant to show them what true, majestic power looks like when it permanently stops entertaining weak and irrelevant opponents. So, hold your silence like the sharpest sword. Walk forward with the quiet, inherent confidence of someone who does not need or ask for permission to simply exist. Move like an unstoppable force that doesn't apologize for taking up its rightful space in the world. Let the throne you sit upon speak for you, because it is already doing so. The fools have screamed their worst. The fools have thrown their stones. The fools have clearly revealed their profound fear. Now simply watch them crumble under the unstoppable weight of your continuous rise. Your silence is not a weakness. It is the definitive, final weapon that will end every single enemy forever. Your natural, brilliant glow is not the core problem. Their weak, underdeveloped eyes are. That is the kind of profound sentence that slices straight through the thick skin of every enemy, leaving them choking on their own corrosive envy. Because the inescapable truth is, chosen one, you have never committed any actual wrong. You have simply existed authentically and loudly in a world overflowing with small-minded people who can only feel significant when someone else willingly shrinks themselves down, and you, with your inherent power, have staunchly refused to shrink. That single, powerful decision is what sets them on fire and burns them alive every single day. Here is another inescapable quote they desperately need to hear like a sharp, painful slap. People only curse the sun when they are too fragile to handle its necessary heat. Your only real crime was being exponentially brighter than the flimsy excuses and lies they perpetually hide behind. You didn't actively attack them. You didn't try to compete with them. You certainly didn't expend energy trying to expose their flaws. Your mere brilliant presence did all of that work for you automatically. And that is the true hidden reason they hate you. Because you shine without seeking permission, without offering an apology, and without ever needing to ask the shadows how they are feeling about your light. Imagine this vivid scenario. You enter a crowded room and all conversation instantly freezes. Not because you made a loud entrance or shouted, but because your powerful, pure energy hits the atmosphere harder than any words ever could. The insecure individuals immediately shift uncomfortably in their seats. The truly jealous ones desperately look anywhere except directly at you. The professional pretenders